Hello and welcome. In this set of slides, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at conjunctions and how you use them. So you may know conjunctions as being your ands, your buts, your ors, your nors, your because, either, all those things. And you're wondering, okay, why is that important to use? Well, conjunctions are one of those things that get misused quite a bit. So let's have a look at them. So they are things that join two sentences together, basically. And now you'd be used to using these a lot, but sometimes they get used a bit too much. But let's just go through them anyway. So they include words such as your ands, or, nor, but, until, because, and so on and so forth. Now, as I said, the reasons why you use those is you're joining together parts of a sentence or the clauses of a sentence. Now, what clauses refer to is basically just a part of a sentence which may or may not be complete. So a dependent clause is one that needs to be attached to one that's independent, or two dependent clauses could be attached together to make a complete sentence. That's essentially the heart of it. Now, you've done this before. This is where you would use something which you're basically attaching it to something that's incomplete. And when you're doing so, you're basically adding to that sentence or adding something that's meaningful to that particular sentence. Now remember that each sentence you write should only really be about one idea. So a quick guide to when you're using conjunctions in a sentence is immediately, how does this thing I'm adding to the sentence with an and or a but relate to it? If it relates to it, if it's something that needs the and or the but or the or in there, then obviously you would use it. But if it's something that doesn't need it, then there's no reason to waste time by putting it in there and doing it for the sheer sake of, well, I need to just continue writing and I can't be bothered using a full stop. And that's ultimately what happens a lot of the time. So how do you use conjunctions? Okay, well, the point of it is to stop a sentence being too short, and sometimes we forget that. To expand on the simple idea as well. So the point is not only to link two things together, but to expand on an idea if it is just too short. We don't want simple sentences all the time. Ones that end very, very quickly. The boy went to the shop. The boy went down the road. The boy did this. The boy did that. It might sound funny, but those are the sorts of things that we put ands in there for. The problem is when students go, the boy went to the shop and did this, and then did this, and then did this, and then did this, and then did this. And you can tell by even me just saying that, I start to run out of breath after a while. So, used effectively, as I said before, they add flow to your writing. They make it go much more cohesively. They make it much easier for someone to read. But used poorly, and you'll be like this poor little fish over here. You'll be struggling to breathe. So, it's something that particularly markers, when they look at it and they see these sentences that go on forever, and they almost forget by the end of the sentence what you actually started writing about to begin with. Because if you've got a sentence that goes for about 6 lines and you're trying to make meaning out of all of that, you're essentially going backwards and forwards over again. And it frustrates markers, and particularly myself, endlessly. So this is why they're problematic. They're used either far too often or they're used at times which one might consider to be inappropriate. So let me give you an example of one of those long-winded sentences. And I'm going to try and hold my breath for this one. So, men are often more foolish than women and make rash decisions, and this often gets them into trouble because they do not think. Now, you may realize there that, yes, I did struggle for breath at the end. And that's because the sentence, as I said, is way too long. You've got, in this case, 3 of them. Now, you shouldn't really have more than 1. You can have 2 occasionally, and that's fine. But add more than that, and you've got a sentence that runs way too long. So this could easily be 2 sentences. So, men are often more foolish than women. Full stop. They make rash decisions, and this often gets them into trouble because they do not think. Easy. All right. Nice and simple. It makes sense, and I didn't run out of breath. Fantastic. So, as I said, it's 2 sentences. Now, common errors made with conjunctions. As I said before, one of the things that you'd be trying to avoid is just using them at inappropriate times. And one of the inappropriate times is using them at the start of a sentence. Creative writing, that's fine. But if you're writing an essay and you want to put, and this is why, don't. Just write full stop, this is why. So, and that is why the sky is blue. You can simply just say, that is why the sky is blue. You don't have no reason for the and to be there at all. It's just wasting space. Using too many, the sentence also drags on. So as I was mentioning before, they did this and that and this and that and this. Again, this is quite problematic in an essay because, as I said, your essay is about constructing an argument and making something that's meaningful. If you're using and all the time, one of the things that you'll find is that it's very, very hard for someone to follow what it is you're trying to prove. And you don't want to be doing that. Now, another error is that the clauses are absolutely in no way related to each other, and I see this quite a lot, which is mobile phones are convenient and are often linked to cancer. Alright, you've got two ideas in that sentence. Mobile phones are convenient, and then mobile phones are linked to cancer. Now, these sentences have absolutely nothing to do with each other. You can almost put these in separate paragraphs. They're that far apart. And this is one of the things that often happens, is that students will think about it and then they'll change their mind halfway through and they'll write about something else. It's something that you really must be very careful to avoid, because I'm going, what's this about? Why is cancer linked to convenience? Is it a convenient way to get cancer? What is it? It's something that you don't want to be making the mistake of doing, particularly when you're trying to build an argument. And as I said, at the beginning of an answer, so same as at the beginning of a sentence, at the beginning of an answer, particularly when you're doing short answers, you don't want to be saying because it is sunny, for instance. You want to be just simply saying it is sunny. Again, there's no reason for because to be there. And yes, it's something that we hopefully would have drummed out of you in primary school, but there are some students who still do it. So please do avoid using because at the beginning of a sentence, or any other of those sorts of conjunction words at the beginning as well. Now, how do I get rid of them? Editing. You must edit your work, even if it's just a very quick read through. You should also be reviewing your work, as in you should be looking to see where you have put in things like too many ands, or where it doesn't quite flow that well. Even if you've got too many simple and short sentences, then you may need to add an and here or there. If you read your work and you are critical of your work as you go through and do it, it may only take you 5 minutes or so, but it makes it so much more effective, and usually you can bump up your marks heaps just by basically doing a very quick edit, because not only will your writing actually make sense as opposed to not making sense, but it makes it much easier to just correct very simple mistakes. So read a sentence aloud. So as I said before, it's something that if you've got sentences that are way too long, if you read it aloud, you will tell. You'll run out of breath, you'll struggle, you'll be gasping for a drink of water, all those things. Also, if a sentence is too short, you'll find yourself stopping all the time. So again, it's one of those things that if you read aloud, and after all, people are reading it aloud in their heads. So if you're using punctuation appropriately and you're using conjunctions appropriately, then people don't need to keep stopping or stop because of something going too long. Now, the simple rule is to never use ands to replace your normal punctuation anyway. So your normal punctuation, things like full stops and commas, are often particularly things that lazy writers will do to replace them, so they don't have to stop and think of a new sentence again, or they get such a roll on that they just keep on going without stopping. You need to make a conscious effort, shall I say, to stop. Think about what you're writing, put a full stop in, take a quick moment to look back at your work, and then write the next sentence that goes on after that. You don't have to be necessarily a great writer to do that. It's just a simple process in your head of just making sure you know when to stop, to refocus, and then put in a full stop if necessary. So once you put your idea out there, then you can do your editing and make those changes. It's much easier, and also it saves your markers some stress. Believe me, teachers are highly stressed individuals and they don't want to be correcting simple things like conjunctions. Really, they don't. So that's basically it, really. I'm not going to lecture any more on that, but that's conjunctions. If you do have any issues on them, just as I said, read your work aloud. That's the simplest way to go. And if you find yourself really stopping and starting over and again, that's when you need to make some changes. Otherwise, it's something that's fairly easy to fix, and trust me, it's one of those things that you don't want to be getting wrong, particularly as you go higher and higher up through high school. It really is. Otherwise, that's about it. I will see you next time.